Badger Brewery Milk Maid.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is one from the Badger Brewery. Now, the Badger Brewery are an English brewer who are one of the traditional brewers, but this is a bit of an anomaly, if you like. And I've had a few of the Badger Brewery beers before. I reviewed them on the channel, and I really should review them again because I reviewed them 2 years ago, and I've looked at the viewing figures on the videos and there really aren't that many. So I reckon it should, well, I think some of their beers deserve another mention. Now there's the Cranborne Poacher, which was one I reviewed when I first started reviewing beer on YouTube 2 years ago or something like that. I can't remember how long ago it was, but I really did like that. That was a damson flavoured ale, and I really did take to that, and I got into the habit of buying it quite regularly. I do remember it being quite sweet, and it had a big strong flavour of damson in it. And now where my palate has probably adjusted, it probably wouldn't be my favourite beer, but I'm going to review that again. I'm going to make a point of doing that. They still sell it down at Morrison's. They also sell Tanglefoot as well. Tanglefoot was a really nice one from what I remember, and I've also had that on draft, or on cask I should say, in a few London pubs. It's quite popular down there, and yeah, again, another beer I do remember as being good, so I should review them again. But this Milk Maid, well, they've called it utterly indulgent. Oh, you wags. It's a milk stout. Now, milk stout is an old drink. It dates back to the 1800s, and it was very, very popular, I should say, with the ladies. And the reason it was is because it's quite sweet. It contains lactose, hence the reason, well, lactose is like a milk type sugar, but it's not fermentable. So if you put it in the stout, the yeast are not going to munch on it, and that sweetness is going to stay in there. If you've ever had Mackeson's, that was a stout from, well, that goes back certainly to the sort of early-ish 20th century, and I do remember that being available in bottles and cans when I was growing up in certain pubs. You don't see it in there now. I have seen it in Morrison's, and I should really review that because I think that deserves a review. That's one of the old original milk stouts. Now, I'm not sure whether Mackeson's have been bought out by a bigger brewery. I should have researched that. But I will put that on the list because I think it deserves it, and it's been going for ages. I think it originates from the northeast, and milk stout, as I say, was popular with the ladies. If you've ever watched Coronation Street, and I'm going to give my age away here now, but I do remember Ina Sharples. Do you remember her? What a looker she was. She used to drink milk stout. That was her favourite tipple, or a sherry. And yeah, I do remember milk stout. Even when I was sort of growing up, some of the old girls would drink milk stout. It was very few and far between, but you did see it. My mum never drank it. Obviously, being Irish, the stout was a man's drink. My mum drank, what did she drink? Whiskey, sherry, Evercream. Do you remember that? Fucking hell, she used to polish off bottles of that stuff. Fortified wine. Oof. No, thank you. But yeah, the milk stout was seen as, and it was done in sort of half pint bottles as well, because obviously women didn't drink pints then. You know, different times. Don't judge. Anyway, let's get back to this beer. Yeah, so this is the Milk Maid. It is a milk stout from the Badger Brewery. They have been going since 1777. They are based in Dorset, and I like what they do. They do have quite a bit of a tradition going on there, and of course Dorset is a lovely part of the world. If you've never been there now, I suggest, you live in the UK, it is great. The Jurassic Coast, Weymouth, all around there. I really like it. I went there in November once and it was freezing cold and I had a great time. So make of that what you will. A lot of history, of course, around there too. So it's a nice part of the world. That sort of, I wouldn't call it the deep south, but the south coast is quite a good part of the world. And it was a place, I will have to say this, it was a place where I had one of the best pints of London Pride in a pub. It was absolutely amazing, and I remember thinking, wow, this is superb. So bear that in mind. But they've brought this out, and I'm half thinking that they're sort of trying to jump on the craft beer bandwagon. Now, this is a milk stout, as I say, traditional. However, milk stout did not have chocolate, coconut and vanilla notes in it, and that's what you've got here. And this is why I say I think they're trying to jump on the bandwagon, which is going to ring alarm bells with me. And it's in a 440ml can. I'll get onto the measurements and everything, the brew sheet, in the next section. But 440ml cans, and again, this could be a little bit of a rant, but it's just my personal views, all right? So don't take it personally, all right? 440ml cans, I think, are a bit of a rip-off. Now, I sort of get why craft brewers are doing it. Craft brewers obviously have bigger overheads. They have to shell out a lot more for their raw ingredients. They don't have access to spring water, etc., so they're paying water rates. The overheads are high, put it that way. So the 440ml in the can is in keeping with the trend now of where not just breweries but food manufacturers as well, they're cutting down on the packaging but still charging at the same price, I should say. And I think this is what's happening here. If you look at their traditional stuff, it's all in 500ml bottles, but this stuff they put in 440ml, and it wasn't cheap either. I think it was around, well, it was about the same price as you would pay for one of their 500ml bottles. Now, yeah, that sort of, in the words of Shania Twain, doesn't impress me much, but it's all in keeping with this. Well, they can't charge more because people think you're taking the piss. They just reduce the product, or the size of the product, or the measurement of how the product is weighed out, and that winds me up. It makes me feel like I'm being ripped off a little bit. But there you go. That's just a personal thing. And before I go any further down that road, let's get on to the next section. Right, this is 440ml can, it's 5.2%. On the back, from the makers of Badger Beer, Milkmaid, this sumptuous, utterly delicious, full-bodied, silky smooth stout combines rich velvety chocolate with subtle hints of vanilla and coconut to create a luxurious and indulgent taste experience. Yeah, whatever. Contains malted barley, oats, sulfates. The fuck are sulfates? Does that come from the water? Who knows? And lactose. Why would you put sulfates? I'm surely that's not an additive. I'm hoping. Well, they say it's come from Dorset spring water. Is Dorset spring water full of sulfates? A little bit of an alarm bell there. What is that sulfate? I don't know. But that's not something that you would see listed on the ingredients. Put it that way. I'm sort of half and half here. I'm glad they've listed it, but I'm wondering what the fucking hell sulfate is doing in my beer. Now, I know sulfate is what's known as a seasoning for beer, and of course Burton water is full of sulfur, not sulfates though. Oh well, I'm not going to go into the science lesson. Let's get it home. Let's see what's going on. Right. 440ml can. I haven't reviewed a stout in ages, and my mate Lee came round tonight. He's returning one of my saws, and I said, do you want a cup of tea? And he went, no. You got anything cold? I went, you fancy a beer? And he went, yep. He's a big Guinness drinker, and round the corner, in the Premier round the corner, they've started doing the West Indies Guinness West Indies Porter. that is really nice. And I said to him, that is the best Guinness you will ever taste. And I bought him 2 bottles. I ran around there and bought him 2 bottles. He was driving, so he only had one, and he really liked it. But I did say they do the Guinness Foreign Extra as well, which is a really nice one from Guinness. They brew it in a lot of African countries. It's available in India and stuff like that. It contains jaggery sugar, which is like an Indian type of brown sugar, cane sugar I think it is. And that's really nice too, very strong. I think it's 8.4, quite hefty. Nice. One of the original Imperial Stouts, before Imperial Stout was a thing. Anyway, there it is in the glass. What are we getting on the nose? Sweet. And you can sort of get that coconut, milky even, and vanilla. There is I can get the vanilla now as well. I'm wondering what sort of adjuncts this has got in it. Is it flavourings? Oh, please. Well, you're not going to get that naturally. Of course it's flavourings, you twat. It wouldn't smell too bad if it was a milkshake, but in a beer, I do question whether, well, these sweet beers, I sort of do question it. It's not really my thing, to be honest, but it may be nice. So let's stop guessing and let's see if it is. Bottoms up. Carbonation in this is quite aggressive. I'm not complaining though, because normally, if this was Brewdog that were doing this, they'd be putting nitro in it. Nitro does not agree with me. And I know Guinness Draft has got nitro in it, and it's got the widget, etc. But I don't like it. I can't drink it. It gives me a roaring headache. It's not that I don't like it. I just know what's going to happen the next day. I'm going to get a fucking stinging headache, a really bad one. And that's why I don't like beers with nitro that's been shot through them. This hasn't got it. You can feel the carbonation. And that's the first thing that struck me, which it shouldn't really be. It should be the flavour. But let's dig in again. And I have to say, all things considered, it's not overly sweet. Can definitely get the coconut and the vanilla that they're talking about, and there is chocolate notes to that too. There's a little bit of a bitterness going on, you know, the roasted malt bitterness that's coming through on it as well, which does give it a little bit of a you know, it sort of nullifies the sweetness that's been put in this. And I'll say it's okay. Yeah, for me, I do struggle with these, not the milk stouts, because milk stout is, it contains lactose, and lactose means that it's going to be sweet. But the sugar that's in there is, as I say, it's a type of sugar. It's not a brewing sugar. It's not an invert sugar, because the yeast don't feed on it. You've got to be careful how much of that lactose that you do put in there. Now, lactose is a big thing with craft brewers at the moment, especially in their stouts. I mean, you've only got to taste some of them pastry stouts that they have, 11% pastry stouts. You just think, I don't get it personally. And there's been some reasonable milk stouts, or lactose stouts as they call them, or stouts that contain lactose, that craft brewers are doing. I think Siren do one, which isn't bad at all. But when you start adding the coconut and the vanilla from a brewery like this, I mean, craft brewers, it's what they do. They experiment with it, and you know, good luck to them. Not really my thing, but I'm not going to be, oh, we should ban it. You know, this is not beer and all that. You know, people have different tastes, and as much as I hate fucking rap and soul and all that kind of junk, I don't want it banned, because people do like it. So when I have these rants, I don't want the beer banned, because people do like it, and I don't want to be a person that advocates for banning something. When you ban things, I don't know, I think, not just beer, I'm talking about the wide world now, They was talking about banning the burqa over in France, or I think they have. And I think it's the most ridiculous thing that I've heard. And it's not because I'm a virtue signalling PC liberal or anything like that. I just think that if you start banning items of clothing, you're going down a very fucking dangerous road. Where does it stop? You set a precedent. If you can ban items of clothing, what next? Offensive t-shirts. That's where I draw the line. But I don't want to get political. I'm fucking going off on money. But when I do have these rants, I don't want beer banned. I don't want it stopped. Even the Marstons. I don't want to see Marstons closed down. Do you know what I mean? But what was my point? Fucking rambling here. I think I don't think breweries like this. This is the point I'm trying to make. I don't think breweries like this need to do things like this. I'll have a little wager with anyone who's willing to take that wager with me. This will not be one of their classic beers, and it won't be remembered as a classic. I don't think. It's pleasant. It's reasonably pleasant. And as I say, I haven't done a stout in a while, and it's nice to have a stout or reviewing a stout on the channel. I like that the sweetness isn't too big on this. I've had some craft brewed milk stouts and lactose stouts and stuff like that, and the sweetness on it has been really, really high. Especially, they call them pastry stouts. I've had I think it was an 11% pastry stout. I can't remember the name of it. Or was it some marshmallow stout from the Tiny Rebel Brewery? I reviewed that really early on when I started reviewing beer. When I was reviewing craft beer, I did used to review craft beer, and then I realised just that everyone else was doing it, and I just thought, what's the point in me doing it? So that's why I've stuck to tradition. But this is okay because it's not over the top sweet, and I don't think I'll ever buy it again. But if you like a little bit of a sweet flavour on your stouts, then maybe you'll like this. I don't think it's too over the top. I think the description is bang on. I'm getting coconut, subtle coconut, more vanilla and chocolate, and I'm trying to think if there's an ice cream that it reminds me of, but there isn't. And there's little hints of roasted malt in there as well, which I do like, because that's what you should be tasting in a stout or a porter. Roasted malt, that is the flavour, and roasted malt is bitter. So they've obviously done this to, well, not done this, but milk stout was to counteract that bitterness. Obviously, back in the day, and I'm not trying to come across as sexist and all that, but blokes did like the bitterness on the Guinness or any porters, London porters that they'd be drinking. I think Murphy's started putting a little bit of a sweetener on the stout that they brewed, and obviously that's an Irish stout, that's from Cork. I wouldn't say a rival to Guinness, but it's big in that region. I should review some of that Murphy's actually, but yeah, I think this is okay if you buy it once, but I'm not going to be buying it again. The sweetness isn't over the top. I had images in my head of this being sickly sweet and me pouring it down the sink. I'm going to finish that and it will be okay, but it's not really my thing, to be honest. So what's the verdict on Milk Maid? Well, I think the balance is okay. They haven't gone down that route of making it really, really sweet as some craft brewers do. It's certainly not in the same category as some of them pastry stouts. Some of the other milk stouts that you can buy, and I'm thinking from the craft brewers, from like Styron and all that, I would prefer this because it's not over the top sweet. There are these subtle vanilla and coconut notes on there, and chocolate as well, but there is some of the roasted malt, which is nice. For a mark, I would give that 6 out of 10. Might sound harsh, but ain't really my thing, to be honest. And I doubt, as I said, I doubt this will be a classic beer. If it becomes part of their core range, I will be very fucking surprised, because a lot of beer drinkers in the UK, I'm not talking about America now, America's got their own tastes and all that, but in the UK, you're trying to sort of enter a market that is saturated with stuff like this, and I think I don't know why they've done it. I know I do know why they've done it. That's a lie. They're sort of trying to compete with the craft brewers, but I don't know. I just get a little bit cynical when I see beers like this. But yeah, I'll drink that. It's reasonable. It's okay. It's nothing special. Not buying it again. 6 out of 10. And remember, beer is working class champagne.